Hey guys, it's Malthus here once again, and as we predicted, the new expansion and league coming in the start of December, or midway through December, for Path of Exile is going to be about the endgame reworking, the Atlas reshaped, all kinds of stuff for the endgame, new items, league, all that sort of stuff. And I do want to go over absolutely everything that has been released for us today, all the stuff that's been covered, and give you my own opinions and reactions to it, because a lot of people seem to want that. And in general, just to sum it all up, it's pretty goddamn hype. So I'll watch the trailer to start with you guys. If you haven't seen it yourself, probably something to check out before you watch it with me here, because I'm going to be talking all over this shit. And overall, it all just looks pretty insane. I go into every single one of these things with absolutely no expectations because I don't really expect anything. Just a new league would usually suffice for me, but these new expansions always blow me away with the announcements and everything they have to offer. So a bunch of new maps, bunch of new tile sets, lots of endgame shit. There's going to be new bosses. There's going to be a new endgame boss like the Shaper sort of thing. New skill gems, new support gems, the new league, new items, unique items, new mods for regular items. There's some Katava action there, which should be pretty damn dangerous. And overall, once again, the trailer is just graphically amazing. I do really like the look of this new boss, which is the Elder. That shit just is terrifying, and I like the look of it. The new skill gems that they've got showcasing here, Tendra's rework there, I think looks really good and fun. The new support gems, which seem to really be focused on that parallel shooting sort of thing. New Abyss League, which is going to be very similar to a Breach sort of league, which is historically or currently our favorite league. Bunch of new bosses, so a lot of those look really cool. And like I said, just visually absolutely stunning once again. That is just the way they make their trailers and gets you really hyped to play the game for sure. Overall, trailer 10 out of 10. There's some Shaper action getting to face his arch nemesis, the Elder. So, yep, December 8th, 2017. It's going to be huge, and it does look like it's going to give us everything we kind of wanted in that we didn't get in Harbinger. So the endgame rework, the Atlas reshape, and some extra bosses to fight and an endgame boss to fight, as well as a new item chase and all of that. So this here is the announcement page when it just first came up sometime this morning, and it's got the trailer, supporter packs, and then a bunch of information about the new stuff. I'll go over that somewhat quickly for you guys, and I'll also show you what the supporter packs and the microtransactions look like, because I think that's pretty important. I personally love myself some microtransactions, and it's good to see them on different showcasings and models before you actually go out and buy it yourself. So first things first, the expansion is called War for the Atlas, and what that means is there is a war for the Atlas between Shaper and a new entity called the Elder. An ancient entity known as the Elder has challenged Shaper's control of the Atlas of the worlds, explore maps ravaged by their conflict. So this is what the new Atlas is going to look like. There's 32 new maps, bunch of our old maps, and they're going to be in different positions and all of that as well. Chris goes over what the new Atlas mechanic looks like over here, and we'll just watch that together.
As you explore the new Atlas of Worlds, you'll encounter maps that are marked with this border. While playing in these areas, you'll discover that a being called the Elder is infecting the Atlas and draining power from the Shaper's creations. The Shaper will attempt to contain the Elder's spread by taking control of maps himself to block the Elder. Maps controlled by the Shaper show the damage that the war for the Atlas is causing on the fabric of reality. Each map you play advances the war and lets you push back the Shaper or the Elder to influence who is winning.
Now, he does go over this in a IGN interview as well in a bit more detail, and I'll link that for you. I won't go over it with you right now. Basically, what's happening is you can influence what is happening with the spread of Shaper or the Elder in the new expansion. So over here will be, let's just say, the Elder's influence with all the tentacle shit, and that means that he is winning the current war there because it's spreading in a larger sense. If you complete this map over here, it will stem the tide of that spread and push it back a bit and potentially help Shaper spread a bit further in. So if there are certain shaped or new Elder or shaped items on a particular map, let's just say the waterways over here, and you want to run it to get those items, it's going to be not strictly target farm there, because you have to balance between the two. If you run this map, it will then be further influenced by Shaper rather than Elder, and that means you then have to run a shaped map or a Shaper map to then stem the tide of him and let Elder get influenced again, so then you can farm the Elder item again. Hopefully that's not too confusing, though I'm pretty sure it was. Basically, you fight against the Elder map, and then that means the Shaper map will come forward, and then you have to fight against the Shaper map for the Elder map to come forward.
Should the Elder become powerful enough, he will be able to manifest in maps and drain the life from the map boss to create an Elder Guardian. The level of the consumed boss dictates the difficulty and reward of the Elder Guardian. Defeat these 4 Guardians to face the Elder himself.
What that'll mean is basically some of these maps will be ticked with a potential Guardian spawn sort of thing, and if you run that map and then the Elder will consume that Guardian from that map and then replace it with his own. Now, this is also explained in the IGN interview as well. If you want to go have a look at that, I'll link it down below. And that means once you kill 4 of their Guardians, you can then face the Elder, and it's in a whatever form you kill him in the lower maps or higher maps. So if you do enough of the Elder maps and do the 4 Guardians, let's just say, at level 72, you'll face a level 72 version of the Elder, which should be easier and gives you obviously less reward for it. While on the other hand, you can let him get to the higher stage and clear all tier 15, 16 versions of him, and he'll drop the best possible loot and probably be on similar difficulty to what the Shaper is, which is pretty damn insane. So that does mean that if, it's too hard for you to do the Shaper currently, and always has been, you may have a better opportunity to fight the Elder in the lower tier maps and actually still see all of the content, yet on a lower scale with lower reward, obviously. So this is the IGN video interview with Chris that goes into more depth and detail, and I do recommend you guys watch some of that if you want to find out more about it. But it does show you what it's like, and you can see the spread from the Elder influence happening when you complete one set of maps as opposed to the other, and then the Shaper is trying to fight back with his own influence, and you help guide it one way or the other. So then it does have a few little pictures on the website of the Elder Guardians. It says, as the Elder grows more powerful, he will consume the Shaper's creations to manifest his own Guardians. The stronger the consumed boss, the stronger the Elder is when you face him. So that just means low level versus high level and all of that. I think this here is one of the Guardians, and then over here is one of them, and then over here is one of them there. So he will consume it, he'll open a new portal for you, and then you enter a separate arena to face the Guardian. And of course they get harder and harder as you get closer to tier 16. And then we have 32 new maps. The Atlas has been redrawn. Find your way to the center through new paths and discover new challenges along the way. War for the Atlas adds 32 maps to Path of Exile's ever-evolving endgame. Now, I believe this map here was potentially one of the unique maps that we got teased a few weeks ago. That is just a unique map that means you have to actually have a travel or a movement skill to get around on. Looks pretty damn sweet. Then we got a snow sort of tiled map with some water and some rickety bridges and all that. Looks pretty neat and cool. A comb sort of tile set, I'd say, doesn't look too new for me, I don't think, anyway. This map here just showing off a new boss, I suppose, that's got a giant scorpion with a female statue stinger, so that's kind of interesting and odd. Then we have just a map that looks something like the Brood Queen boss that we get in Act 6. And not a big fan of that sort of thing because it is scary to actually do and complete. But yeah, you can see that that's a new more sort of map tile set. And then we have this one here showing off a couple of new skills. And overall, I don't really see anything terribly new about that one. Then we get into the endgame shit, and that is Shaped and Elder items. As you fight in maps the Shaper or Elder control, you may find rare Shaped and Elder items which can be crafted to have powerful properties that don't normally occur. Now these look pretty damn crazy and have potential to become absolute best in slot items and make some certain mirror items maybe even obsolete. Though how possible that is still going to be up in question, because it'd probably be really rare and really hard to craft, or even really hard to just find good ones of. But for example, this looks like it's going to start making 6 links off of 3 link or 4 link items more of a real thing, and not just what Tempest Binding showcased as a unique sort of ability. It is going to happen more often with newer items. So this here is a Elder influenced item by the looks of it, has a level 20 chance to bleed, Ruthless, and Melee Splash, meaning with a 3-link sword, that becomes a 6-link item. That opens up a world of possibilities for comb items or dual-wielding 6 links, all kinds of crazy shit, and it could potentially become very strong and very fun to play around with. Likewise, you can have a 6-link pair of gloves here with slower proj and faster casting, and remote mine and hypothermia, and then some added damage to spells. A lot of crazy new mods on these. Cast speed, gloves, and +1 active skill gems here. It's going to make probably a new level and subset of chase items that currently don't exist, rather than just a few chase uniques that have been historically good, like Headhunter and Acuity. This will be, I think, really hard to get good rolls of, but potentially super rewarding to actually farm and then find the best possible combos. And it would hopefully open up new possibilities of being able to have a separate 6-link for your clear speed and a separate 6-link for your single target, which, as I've played around with the Tempest Binding in the past couple months, is really nice to play around with. You don't have to swap out your conk effects, your multi-strikes, or your GMPs for, single target and all of that, and it's a much smoother playstyle, so hopefully that does promote some of that. These items look pretty cool and could be potentially game changers. We then have 10 new gems. They say we have 4 new skill gems and 6 new supports. Now, the new skills focus on necromancy, they say, so we're talking like corpse-related shit for the most part. I won't really go over them too much because I'm really not that much into speculating and figuring out how things work. I want to kind of actually just put it to the test and see exactly how it works by trying it out and then seeing if it's got the numbers behind it to actually work as well. But overall, it looks to me like cremation looks pretty damn cool. That is this volcano sort of skill where you'll throw up a geyser and it's going to be pretty nice for clear, hopefully even good for single target. But this is stuff that I think you have to actually play around with. Let you guys read it in your own time otherwise. For the support gems, you'll have a storm barrier support, so that helps you stand still while channeling, take less damage, and then also gives you power charges. I think it can certainly see some play in plenty of builds and plenty of skills. That's not a bad support at all. Volley support, so that's the one that has the projectiles look like they're going parallel, and that could potentially be something really nice for your clear speed. And it's pretty similar numbers to an LMP, and it could very well see quite a lot of use in quite a lot of skills. So that's a very strong one, I think, potentially. And then we have Spell Cascade, which is sort of like a multi-strike maybe. Instead of just throwing out one AoE, you throw out 3. It says supported area of effect, affect areas in front and behind the targeted area. So that could be a real clear speed monster. 25% less area, 50% less damage, but then you have 3 things instead of just the 1. So, like I said, could be a clear speed monster. Goes into that whole thing I was just saying about separate 6 links. I have a separate 6 link for this shit that just does mass clear speed. Then have a separate 6 link for your single target that doesn't have a spell cascade. Ancestral Call Support. So it says supported skills deal 25% less damage. Supported attack skills also target 2 nearby enemies. So that's pretty damn cool for your melee. Means you'll attack with 3 melee hits at once instead of the 1. Synergizes probably really well with your melee splash, maybe even your multi-strike. Overall should be pretty damn fun for clear speed and destroying lots of shit. Maybe some good Slayer synergy with the inbuilt melee splash, or just with some of these new items, inbuilt melee splash there and all that sort of stuff. And then a couple that are unannounced at the moment. Then we have a few previews of unique items. We have War for the Atlas contains over 50 new unique items, many of which have been community designed. So first up, we have Arborix, the Assassin Bow, pure physical. It's a pretty interesting item. It looks somewhat like a Chin Sol in its functions. It's got pure physical, 2 additional arrows. Of course, that's really good for barrage and clear and all of that. Every 16 seconds, you gain iron reflexes for 8 seconds. And then 30% more bow damage at close range while you have iron reflexes. So that's a huge multiplier, but it's only when you have iron reflexes, which is only half the time unless you spec into iron reflexes, in which case you'll just have 30% more bow damage at close range, and that basically functions like a Chin Sol in the end, so I'm not sure if that's strictly worth it. Whereas when you don't have iron reflexes, it's got 30% increased attack, cast, and movement speed, which is really nice. And then you have Far Shot while you don't have iron reflexes, which is also really nice. That's only up half the time. So I'm not too sure about this thing. It's probably just a really nice sort of starting bow for your characters. Not sure if it's quite the end game bow you want to be using. Could very well potentially be though. Pretty competitive to a Chin Sol up close with those 2 additional arrows and that 30% more bow damage. Next up, we have the White Wind Imperial Skein. Now, it's got a shitload of cold damage for a one-hander, a bunch of evasion, and then 20% chance to dodge attacks while your offhand is empty, which is a lot. So you could come pretty damn close to capping your dodge on, let's say, a raider with acrobatics and a bunch of extra dodge stuff. And then you also have 100% increased cold damage while your offhand is empty. So it's an interesting mechanic, no offhand, just a single one-hand, lots of extra dodge, and a huge amount of cold damage, so it's a very high EDPS weapon, and definitely something we can probably build heavily around. Then have a Yoke of Suffering. This doesn't look terribly good to me. Overall, there's nothing too interesting going on there, except for the enemies take 5% increased damage for each type of ailment you have inflicted on them, and your elemental damage can shock. So it is going to be basically a more multiplier, because if you have 4 ailments on the enemy, a shock, ignite, chill, freeze, let's just say, that's 20% increased damage the enemy takes. Currently it takes 0% increased damage, which means it's a 20% more multiplier to all of your damage. Though quite often a amulet slot could give you pretty close to that much damage just by itself, because amulets are very strong item slots for crit and elemental builds. And then it also relies on you having to inflict all the different types of ailments as well at the same time. Quite possibly could be a best in slot for a lot of builds just for pure damage, but without any additional life, for example. No crit. I don't know. I'm not sure it's going to be the bee's knees. It is only a level 20 item though. Some good resists and all that for leveling, so it's not bad in that right. Next up, we have what seems to be a crowd favorite at the moment, and that is the Hungry Loop. So it has 1 socket, because it's an unset ring, and then the base item is going to can consume 4 additional support gems. So in this example, it already has consumed a level 20 cast when damage taken. And the way the ring works is consumes socketed support gems when they reach max level. So when you have a level 19 that's about to turn over into a 20, you put it in here, let's say a faster casting, it turns level 20 and then it attaches itself as a faster casting to this ring. And it can have 4 additional supports. As I said, it's already consumed a cast when damage taken in this example. So it ends up being a 5-link ring. You just put your spell or whatever inside the actual socket after it's consumed 4 things, and then it's a 5-link ring. That's pretty versatile and can definitely be pretty damn good, though sacrificing an entire ring slot can be a burden and a bit annoying at times. I think it's still going to be something a lot of people play around with, and potentially very strong. Not exactly the easy starter 5-link you might be looking for, because you do have to still get to level 19 gems and then turn them over to 20, which usually means you're going to be something like level 90 by the time it happens. So it's not exactly an easy to get starter 5-link. So it kind of doesn't have too much utility as a starter item, I don't think. You then have these boots, Relicash Impatience, nothing too interesting with the resist and movement speed, but gain a frenzy, endurance, or power charge once per second while you are stationary. So whenever you're stationary, just standing still, frenzy, endurance, and power charge once per second, which is a pretty good rate. And then you lose all frenzy, endurance, and power charges when you move, which is pretty damn bad. But if you're just pure lightning warping around, which you rarely should be, because you do still move a bit, then you get a lot of that utility, which is really nice. But when you're flicker striking around, this could be very interesting indeed. Without any life, it's kind of a kick in the nuts, but otherwise it could very well see some endgame play for some flicker strike builds, maybe some lightning warp action. It's an interesting item, and some people will definitely push it to its limits. And then just a map, the Twilight Temple, bunch of quantity, rarity, pack size, inhabited by Lunaris fanatics, Solaris fanatics, cursed with flammability and cursed with frostbite. Probably going to be a very aesthetically pleasing map and just a fun one to run. Doesn't look too insane, only map tier 9. You then have the new supporter packs that I will go into in just a second, and the Abyss Challenge League. So this will launch at the same time as the expansion, December 8th, according to this. And this is what it looks like. It's a video they didn't intend to release to the public, but, well, it's been found, and here it is. And essentially, it will function similar to a Breach League, where there will be a shitload of monsters spawning from a sort of direction or area, or an abyss, I guess, and you kill them, and the faster you kill them, the better the rewards will be. And this is just a small example and demo for just sort of quick testing purposes, I suppose, for the interviews that they did. So it's not a true representation of what Abyss is going to look like in the end. Keep in mind, there will probably be a shitload more monsters and be much harder in the end game sense. And then there's going to be new jewels or something associated with that. And it's just something we'll find out more about next week when they actually announce the whole Abyss League full trailer and all of that. So it should probably be potentially our favorite league or second favorite league next to Breach, because a bunch of extra monsters, bunch of extra loot, and some fun mechanics. And then lastly, before we go into the actual supporter packs and micros, what we have here was in one of the interviews, they did highlight this Vaal Pact node, and basically what has happened is it's moved from up here over here to down here next to the duelist shit. And instead of Vaal Pact just giving you instant life leech, it now has life leached per second is doubled, max life leech rate is doubled, and life regen has no effect. So in essence, this is going to try and shift us away from the meta of instant life leech, instant recovery, and just pure face tank, to faster leech and still having to invest into leech and leech rate, and just having to avoid things just a little bit every now and again. Because with things like Slayer, with some of the other nodes down here, with some of the items that exist and claws and all that, you will still be able to get pretty much back up to full life like that through the leech recovered per second mechanics. But it won't be quite instant, meaning you can't quite face tank a shitload of things without really taking any damage, or so it seems. And this could potentially mean that Slayers are going to become God tier, replace the whole Berserker meta with Slayer meta, but we'll wait and see if Slayers get any adjustment, Berserkers get any adjustment, and this could be potentially worrying for characters that currently suffer Reflect mechanics, but I'm holding out hope that Reflect is dumpstered in this coming expansion, so we'll wait and see about that as well. Let's not grab our pitchforks just yet. Though not having instant leech will be a bit of a kick in the nuts to potentially some casters and definitely some builds out there now. It's just going to be a different way to build, I think, in the future. But for now, I think we just have to wait and see what happens, not jump to any actual conclusions yet. And now to go over the supporter packs. So as always, there's a pretty cheap one to start with, and there's a fairly expensive one at the end, which is $480, and it includes absolutely everything. These supporter packs, to me, have looked pretty damn good overall compared to previous ones, and I'm very happy with what they offer personally. Now, before we do go into them, I feel like I should mention, for some reason, that these aren't something that you have to have. They're not necessary for the gameplay. So when people complain that they cost too much, or the micros or cosmetics cost too much, they're not costing anything. This is a supporter pack. So the idea is that you want to support the company and the game and watch and be a part of future releases and let them create more content. You are supporting, and in return, you are still getting some goodies, which seems to be decent value for the actual microtransaction system, and it's definitely worth it if you like all of this cool shit and really enjoy the game. So to start with, we do have the $30 supporter pack, which is Vagabond. Gives you the weapon effect, a forum title, and the social frame, and it also always corresponds with giving you similar sorts of points. So for $30, you get all that cool shit, and then also the 250 points to spend in the store. And the weapon effect is really cool. This doesn't really do it justice. Now that it's a weapon effect video, I'll go over it in game in just a second. The Seeker supporter pack for $60 is probably, in my opinion, the best value and looks almost even the best out of all of them. It's got a very different look to a few of the others, but I really like the clean aesthetics and the simplicity of it. And it's probably, like I said, the best value. The cloak and sort of trench coat look with the 2 weapon effects looks really nice. And then you get decent points and this scroll back attachment. Next, you have the Scholar, which is $100, and I don't really particularly like the look of it that much, but it does look good on a couple of different characters, and the back attachment is really sweet. The weapon effect is pretty damn sweet, and it looks overall fairly nice on a caster. It's just not the kind of set that I think goes on almost every character. It's very specific to the characters it'll go on. Then you have the Redeemer. I personally don't really like this one too much as a whole set. The portal effect is really cool. The weapon effect is kind of average. I'll show you that in a sec. You do get the shirt, the cloth map, which historically for me, the shirts have been really nice. I think they're pretty good. But the overall set I don't particularly like too much. I think it's still a good set. It's well made, but it's not really to my tastes. And then we have the Subjugator, which is overall a really nice looking set. The chest piece in game doesn't look that good to me, but the back attachment, the helm, gloves, boots, all of that looks really nice. The weapon effect is really cool, and the new portal effect is really cool as well. It's a pretty damn good pack. I think this is probably the best value out of the high dollar packs. If you're going to pay for one, then the Subjugator is probably really good for that. And then we have the Dominator, which to me doesn't quite seem worth the extra $240. I don't really like the last tier of armor. It looks a bit too chunky, and you can have a look at that in the actual armor set video because I don't have it to demo for you. I didn't really get a good look at the weapon effect either because, once again, can't demo it. The portal effect though looks really nice, and I wish I could get that, but I can't justify the extra $240 just for those 2 things. So I'll go over some Barbie dress-up action shit for you guys right now because I personally love seeing micros, and I think it's worth it for you guys to look at them. You can go back to the VOD for my stream today and look at the whole show because I played around with micros for about an hour, but I'll give you the sort of too long didn't watch version of that. This is my current setup, and this is what I have chosen to play around with. I am an axe-wielding Pathfinder, so a ranger character with the Seeker set, and this belt effect is just coming purely from the belt, got nothing to do with the actual sets. The Seeker set for the armor, I have the Scholar back attachment, which I think looks pretty damn silly, but kind of sweet. And then I'm wearing a Namahu's with the Subjugator weapon effect. And the Subjugator weapon effect basically has some sort of half ash, half molten effect. So you can see that the handle all the way up here is sort of dark and ashy, and then it gets really hot and turns into a 1,000-degree hot knife, basically. As can be seen right kind of here. See, 1,000-degree hot knife, but it's not truly 1,000-degree hot knife till it's like that. So this set with the two-hand Colossus sword has been basically my favorite so far for my character. I just really like the clean aesthetic of it. You know, you actually look like you're about to go out and just take on a huge quest of monster slaying and book reading. And I don't know, I really do like this, especially with the giant oversized sword. This is what my current character looks like, and that's what the Subjugator weapon effect looks like. That's what it looks like on this sort of thing. And they have sort of gone into more of a trend with their weapon effects to have leaving lasting trails when you actually swing around and move around. So you can see there's a bit of a burning trail there that looks pretty damn sweet. As well as that, when you leap slam, it happens. And also when you attack, it happens. And then lastly, when you cyclone, you can see a bit of a trail there too. So that's a nice trend they've been going with, because it does make a lot of these effects look a lot cooler. Which brings us to the $30 supporter, that is the Vagabond weapon effect, which is actually my second favorite weapon effect, or kind of on par with Subjugator. This is $240, this is $30, and the Vagabond weapon effect looks really nice on a lot of different weapons and as a actual weapon skin, and it has this sort of black tearing through the fabric of space and time look to it. You can see that it looks really nice. It's similar to the Oriath weapon effect in that sort of context, and I think it looks really good on a lot of different weapons. So if you put it on here, that's on our Colossus sword, it looks really clean and really nice, and just kind of changes a weapon effect or a weapon quite drastically all by itself with the way it looks. You can see on a Namahu's, it really crispens up the look. Without that, it looks kind of like this. That's not bad. It's a nice weapon skin. But this really just sharpens it, and I think looks really good on a lot of different weapons. So for $30, this is a really nice weapon effect, and I really do like it. And that's what it looks like on a bow. Likewise, that's what Subjugator looks like on a bow. And then I guess I may as well go over the other weapon effects right now. Scholar weapon effect is a whole bunch of lightning and sort of ribbed lightning, I guess you could say. On the Colossus sword, you can see it here. It, like, you know, has stripes and all that. Looks really cool. I think that's the next best one on the list of micros, but feels like it's going to be more specific to a different micro setup. This one doesn't really quite fit. And then you have the Seeker weapon effect, which I didn't really like too much. Didn't seem to do too much for a lot of my weapons. So I'm not sure about that at all. If you buy the Seeker pack, you'll probably be using the Vagabond weapon effect a lot more than this one. But on the Colossus sword, it doesn't look too bad otherwise. And then the Redeemer weapon effect, which, I don't know, I really don't see it doing too much at all for some reason. It's kind of weird. Compared to the other ones, it's not very nice, in my opinion. It doesn't really do much, and the color of it's kind of hooey, if I'm allowed to say that. So, yeah, I don't know. It ain't redeeming much for me is what I'm trying to say, but I don't know, maybe someone else can see the beauty in it that I can't. So that's the weapon effects there, and now I'll just go over real quick what the other character effects, or, you know, micro looks like. So I think the next best one to this, or maybe better in some cases, is Subjugator. That is the $240 pack, and when you put on the entire set, it looks pretty damn sweet. That's the actual Subjugator armor, which is pretty nice, but doesn't truly get too good until you actually put on the cloak as well. The cloak itself is absolutely beautiful. So from the back here, you can see these wings, and it's got also the statues on your shoulders basically, and a secondary cloak effect. Without the actual cloak, you sort of have just a trench coat sort of thing happening, skirt. But then with the cloak, it looks really nice to have a secondary cloak effect, and just the back attachment looks quite insane. The actual chest armor itself isn't anything to write home about compared to the rest of the set, and the entire set just molds and fits really nicely with a lot of other armor pieces. So with the Redeemer, I think that actually looks better. The Obsidian looks fine. Just about everything looks good with this entire setup. Gloom looks really clean and crisp, and I really like the Gloom synergy with that. Even Demon King, which historically has looked too big on my ranges, really fits nicely with this entire setup and theme, and I like that a lot too. And Arctic's always great with a lot of different things, and once again fits well with this one. So by this point, I know that the video is basically 3 hours long, so I'll just go over the Redeemer and Scholar real quick before basically calling it a day there. This is the whole Redeemer set I'll put on for you guys. I don't particularly like it that much, but I can appreciate that it's well made and other people could like it. So bear that in mind. I'm not a hater of it like I would, let's say, the Beast supporter. I'm not a big fan of the Beast at all. I don't know what they did to that or what they did with that. But this is what the full Redeemer looks like. It still can look good, I think. It's just not strictly to my taste. I do think I'll be able to appreciate it and play around with it on a few different characters in the future, so it's not a completely terrible set. to my liking. This entire Hydra back attachment, Redeemer Cloak, looks pretty weird and can fit with a few of my characters, I think, but once again, just a bit too weird for me. And then the Scholar entire set looks pretty cool, but I don't think it fits my current character, the aesthetic of what I'm trying to do with it, and feels like more of a, well, I don't know, caster sort of thing, or a slightly bigger character like a Templar or Marauder wields this a bit better in my opinion. I think it looks really nice though, and the back attachment is really pleasing to my eyes. Just the whole book candle with scribbles and all that looks really cool. And I did forget to show you the Seeker cloak attached to the Seeker set. It's not really a cloak, it's just basically a scroll on your back, and I think that looks really nice too. But overall, Seeker armor I think is the best. Really good value for $60, and just probably the one that's going to see most use, at least out of me. It's just very appealing to my tastes. So that is the entire announcement of War of the Atlas. Just about went over everything I absolutely could for you guys, gave my opinion on everything, showed you what I like and what tastes I have in macros. I bought the $240 supporter pack. I've been able to justify these, especially through streaming and playing the game a lot the past few years, and I'm happy to support those, especially when they come out with such cool looking sets. I am very happy to go in that deep on these supporter packs. That's about it for me, guys. I'm pretty damn hyped. I think the game is just keeps blowing my mind. Like I said, I come in with zero expectations, and I cannot believe they keep giving me so much more every, let's say, 5 to 6 months. It's insane. I can't wait for the start of December. In the meantime, though, we will have the end of Turmoil and then Mayhem, and yeah, just a bit of waiting and a bit of struggling till we get to play the actual new expansion. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you appreciate and enjoy the video, and I will see you next time.